Before humans painted pictures, before flags existed, before nations chose colors, before red meant danger and gold meant power, there was simply light. A wave of energy enters your eyes. Your brain receives it, and somehow you experience blue. You experience red. You experience green. You experience the orange of fire, the purple of a sunset, the brown of earth. But here's the strange part. None of those colors exist exactly as you experience them. The world contains wavelengths of light. Your brain turns those wavelengths into color, which means the blue of the sky isn't simply sitting there waiting for you to see it. Your brain is constructing it. And the particular way your brain constructs the world was shaped by millions of years of survival. Color helped our ancestors find food. It helped them recognize health and illness. It helped them read faces. It helped them navigate social world. And eventually, humans did something extraordinary. We stopped merely seeing color. We began using it. We dug it out of the earth, painted it onto our bodies, put it on walls, turned it into symbols, used it to show who we were, what we believed, what we feared, and what we wanted others to think of us. Color began as a property of light. Then it became a survival tool, then a language, then art, then identity, then power. And eventually, it became one of the most powerful ways humans manipulate attention itself. This is the story of how color changed human history. Imagine an ancient forest, dense vegetation, leaves everywhere, branches crossing above your head, light breaking through the canopy in scattered pieces, and somewhere above you, fruit. But there is a problem. Not all fruit is ready to eat. Some is bitter, some is unripe, some may even be dangerous. For an animal searching through thousands of leaves, being able to distinguish one object from another can mean the difference between finding food quickly and wasting precious energy searching. This is one reason scientists have proposed that the evolution of primate color vision was connected, at least in part, to the ecological problem of finding and evaluating food. Our distant primate ancestors developed a form of color vision different from that of many other mammals. Instead of relying on only 2 types of cone cells, some primates evolved 3. A genetic duplication and divergence allowed one visual pigment to become tuned to a different range of wavelength. Eventually, this produced the trichromatic vision characteristic of Old World monkeys, apes, and human. And suddenly, the world could be separated into finer visual categories. Something that looked like part of the forest could stand out from the forest. A piece of fruit could look different from the leaves surrounding it. We don't know that this was the only reason trichromatic vision evolved. Evolution rarely gives us one simple explanation. But the fruit hypothesis is powerful because it reveals something important. Color vision is not just about beauty. It is about information. Your ancestors didn't need to see the world exactly as it was. They needed to see the differences that mattered, and that principle would follow humanity for millions of years. Now leave the forest. Imagine a small group of early humans on an open landscape. There is no writing, no medicine, no digital communication, no way to measure someone's heart rate, but there is one thing everyone can see: the human face. Someone becomes embarrassed. Blood moves toward the surface of the skin. Their face changes color. Someone becomes frightened. Their face may become pale. Someone becomes physically exhausted. Their skin can change. Someone becomes overheated. Their face flushes. Someone becomes sick. Their normal coloring may change. You don't need language to notice these things. You look and you interpret. He's frightened. She's angry. Something is wrong. They're embarrassed. They're healthy, they're exhausted. Human color vision is particularly sensitive to variations in skin color, and this gives us a remarkable social ability. We can extract information about another person's internal state from changes happening on the surface of their body. Think about what that means. Color isn't only helping you understand the physical environment, it is helping you understand other people. Your face is constantly broadcasting information, and other human brains are constantly reading it. That makes color part of the social world. A blush can betray embarrassment. Pallor can accompany fear. A change in complexion can signal illness. A face can communicate something before the person has said a single word. And this matters because human history is, more than anything, a history of people trying to understand other people. Who can I trust? Who is afraid? Who is angry? Who is healthy? Who is vulnerable? Who belongs here? Color was already helping answer some of those questions long before humans gave colors names. But then something changed. Humans began doing something no forest had ever done. We began taking color out of nature. Imagine finding a strange red stone. You break it open. Inside is a powder. You rub it between your fingers. The color remains. You mix it with fat, or water, or another substance, and suddenly you have pigment, ochre, a natural mineral pigment containing iron oxides. yellow, orange, red, brown, colors produced by the earth itself. Archaeological evidence shows that humans were collecting and using ochre hundreds of thousands of years ago. In some places, the evidence goes extraordinarily far back. But here's the important question. Why? Why spend energy collecting a colored mineral when you could simply leave it in the ground? We don't know exactly, and that's important. There probably wasn't one universal reason. Ochre may have been used for practical purposes. It may have helped process materials. It may have been used on hides. It may have been involved in adhesives. And in some contexts, it appears to have been used symbolically. At some point, humans began treating color as something that could be chosen, not simply something they encountered. Something they could collect, process, transport, apply. And that is a profound change. Because the moment you can choose a color, color can acquire meaning. A red mark can belong to one person. A pattern can identify a group. A pigment can become part of a ritual. A painted object can represent something that isn't physically there. Color has crossed a boundary. It is no longer merely something you see. It is something you can communicate with. Imagine a human standing in front of a cave wall. Their hands are covered in pigment. They press a hand against stone. Then they pull it away. A shape remains. The hand is gone, but its image remains. That simple act contains one of the deepest transformations in human history. The ability to leave information behind, to make something represent something else, to turn the physical world into a record of the mind. And color makes those marks visible. Red against stone, black against pale rock, yellow against darkness. Color creates contrast. Contrast creates attention. Attention creates meaning. We often think of prehistoric art as the beginning of painting, but it may be more useful to think of it as something even bigger. The beginning of humans deliberately manipulating visual information. We weren't simply looking at the world anymore. We were changing what other humans would see. And once humans learned that colors could carry meaning, there was almost no limit to where that idea could go. Imagine two groups approaching each other. They speak differently. They have different traditions, different symbols, different histories. But from a distance, you cannot hear any of that. You can only see a painted body, a decorated object, a colored garment, a particular pattern, a particular pigment. And suddenly, color can answer a question before anyone speaks. Who are you? Across human societies, colors have acquired cultural meanings, but those meanings aren't universal. Red can represent danger, or love, or blood, or celebration, or sacrifice. White can represent purity in one culture and mourning in another. Black can represent death, authority, elegance, or protection. Gold can mean wealth, sacredness, power, immortality. The physical wavelength hasn't changed. The human meaning has. And that is one of the most important things about color. Color has two lives, one inside the eye and one inside culture. Your brain sees a particular pattern of light. Your culture teaches you what that pattern means. And eventually, the two become almost impossible to separate. Now imagine a ruler. They don't need to explain their authority to every person they meet. They can simply display it. A crown, a robe, a banner, a throne, gold, purple, deep red. Colors that are expensive to produce. Colors associated with rarity. Colors that ordinary people may rarely encounter. Color can turn wealth into something visible, power into something visible, status into something visible. The ability to obtain a rare pigment can itself become a demonstration of power. One of the most famous examples is purple. For centuries, certain rich purple dyes were extraordinarily difficult and expensive to produce. In the ancient Mediterranean world, Tyrian purple became associated with wealth and high status. The color wasn't magically powerful. Its production was. Thousands of marine mollusks could be required to produce relatively small quantities of dye. The result was a color that was difficult to obtain and therefore difficult to imitate. And this reveals something fascinating. Humans don't just assign meaning to colors. Sometimes we assign value to the ability to produce them. And once color becomes valuable, controlling color becomes another form of power. But color could communicate even without luxury. Think about a battlefield. A soldier needs to know, where are my people? Where are the others? Which direction should I move? A flag can answer those questions from a distance. A colored banner can turn a collection of individuals into a visible group. Later, national flags would do something even more powerful. They would turn millions of strangers into members of the same imagined community. You could travel thousands of miles, meet someone you've never seen before, and recognize them as belonging to the same nation because of a piece of colored fabric. Color had become identity at enormous scale. Not just, who am I, but who are we? And once humans discovered that color could unite people, they also discovered that it could divide them. Throughout history, societies have used clothing, markings, symbols, and colors to distinguish groups. Sometimes the distinction was voluntary, sometimes it was imposed, and sometimes it became a tool of exclusion. The same visual system that allows you to recognize a familiar group can help you notice someone who doesn't belong. Color can make identity visible, and when identity becomes visible, it can become politically powerful. This is one of the darker chapters in the history of color, because a symbol that creates belonging for one group can create exclusion for another. The color itself isn't evil. The meaning humans attach to it can be. Color became capable of doing something extraordinary. It could make an invisible social category visible. For most of human history, color came from the natural world: earth, plants, flowers, shells, minerals, insects, animals. But eventually, humans learned to manufacture colors on an entirely different scale. Chemistry changed the palette. New synthetic dyes appeared. Colors that had once been rare could suddenly become cheap. Bright colors could be produced in enormous quantities. Clothing changed. Advertising changed. Art changed. Industry changed. And something important happened. Color stopped being controlled only by nature. Humans began controlling it. We could decide what shade a product would be, what color a building would be, what color a uniform would be, what color would dominate a city. Color became industrial. And once color became industrial, it became commercial. Walk into a supermarket, thousands of products, thousands of packages, and almost every one of them is competing for the same thing: your attention. You don't read every label. You don't compare every product. Your brain has to make rapid decisions, and color becomes part of the shortcut. A bright package stands out. A familiar color signals a familiar brand. A particular shade can make something feel luxurious, natural, healthy, dangerous, cheap, premium, energetic, calm. The ancient primate brain that once needed to notice fruit against leaves now walks through a supermarket designed to make thousands of objects compete for that same visual attention. The environment changed. The machinery didn't. And then came the screen. Now color wasn't simply surrounding us. It could be delivered directly into our eyes millions of times a day. Phones, televisions, computers, games, social media, advertising. Every pixel is controlled. Every shade can be selected. Every contrast can be adjusted. Every notification can be designed to stand out. The same visual system that evolved to notice meaningful differences in the environment is now surrounded by an environment where almost everything is competing to become meaningful. A notification wants attention. An advertisement wants attention. A button wants attention. A warning wants attention. A video thumbnail wants attention. We built machines that learned how to speak the language of our eyes, and then we filled them with things that wanted us to look. For all the ways humans have controlled color, we still don't completely agree on what we're seeing. Because your experience of color depends partly on the biological machinery you inherited. Most humans have 3 types of cone cells contributing to normal color vision. But some people have color vision deficiencies. Their visual experience is not simply broken, it is different. Some forms make certain color distinctions harder, and research has explored whether these differences can sometimes come with advantages in particular visual tasks, such as detecting certain forms of camouflage. Then there are people with unusual genetic variations that may allow 4 different cone types to contribute to their vision. These people are sometimes described as potential tetrachromats. But having 4 cone types does not automatically mean someone consciously experiences a dramatically larger universe of colors. The brain still has to process the information. And this is where the story becomes humbling. You cannot step outside your own perception. You have no way to temporarily borrow someone else's eyes and see exactly what their world looks like. The red you see might not be exactly the red I experience. The blue of the sky might be subtly different in your mind. The green of a forest might occupy a different perceptual space in someone else's brain. And yet, we both call it green. And biology isn't the only thing shaping what we notice. Language matters too. The visible spectrum doesn't arrive in your brain with labels attached. There isn't a tiny tag in the light saying red, green, blue. Those categories are created by minds and cultures. Different languages divide the color spectrum in different ways. Some make distinctions that another language doesn't. And studies of color categorization have shown that language can influence how quickly and easily people distinguish between certain shades. Which means something extraordinary may be happening every time you name a color. You aren't simply describing the world, you're organizing it. You take a continuous spectrum and carve it into categories. This is blue, that is green. This is red, that is orange. The physical world gives you light. Your eyes give you signals. Your brain gives you experience. and your culture gives that experience meaning. Think about how far this journey has gone. At the beginning, there was only light. Then evolution turned light into information. Color helped an animal find food. It helped primates distinguish objects in complex environments. It helped humans read faces. Then humans began collecting pigments. Color became something we could carry. Then we painted bodies, objects, walls, caves. Color became symbolic. Then color became identity, religion, status, war, nationhood, art. Then chemistry transformed color into an industrial product, and industry transformed it into advertising. And now, color lives inside every screen we carry, every advertisement we see, every warning sign, every logo, every flag, every photograph, every piece of art. Color began as information. Humans turned it into meaning. Meaning became culture. Culture became identity. Identity became power. And power learned how to use color to capture attention. So go back to the beginning. Look at the sky. It appears blue. But blue is not sitting inside the sky waiting for you. There are wavelengths of electromagnetic radiation. Your eyes detect some of them. Your nervous system processes those signals, and your brain constructs an experience. Look at a red flower. The flower isn't carrying a little packet of red inside it. It is interacting with light. Your visual system interprets the result, and inside your mind, red appears. That doesn't mean color is fake. It means color is constructed. Just like sound, just like taste, just like many other aspects of conscious experience, your brain takes physical information and turns it into a world you can live inside. And the world it creates has been shaped by evolution, by genes, by development, by language, by culture, by memory, by experience. You are not simply seeing the world. You are seeing the version of the world your brain has learned to construct. And perhaps that is why color changed human history so profoundly. Because color didn't remain a feature of the natural world. Humans turned it into a feature of the human world. We used it to recognize food, then faces, then symbols, then tribes, then gods, then kings, then nations, then brands, then screens. We took something that began as a biological response to light and built civilization around it. And yet, after all of that, there is something beautifully strange about color. Every human being experiences the world from inside a private mind. You and I can stand beneath the same sunset, look at the same ocean, watch the same fire, see the same painting, and neither of us can ever know exactly what the other sees. We can describe it, we can photograph it, we can give it a name, but we can never completely enter another person's visual world. And somehow, we built a civilization anyway. We painted together, we decorated our bodies together, we created symbols together, we built flags, we made art, we chose colors for the people we loved, we watched sunsets and called them beautiful. Maybe that's the deepest story of color. It began as a survival system, but humans turned it into a way of sharing something that exists only inside the mind. Light enters the eye, the brain turns it into color, culture turns color into meaning, and humans turn meaning into history. So the next time you look at a sunset, remember, you're not simply looking at a color. You're looking at millions of years of evolution inside a few seconds of experience. The same ancient machinery that once helped a primate find fruit in a forest is now showing you a sunset, a painting, a face, a flag, a memory, a world. And perhaps the most extraordinary thing isn't that we learned how to see color. It's that we learned how to make color mean something. Because the moment humans gave color meaning, color stopped being just something we saw. It became something we used to tell each other who we were, what we believed, what we feared, what we loved, and what kind of world we wanted to create. Color began as light. Humans turned it into history.